Hi, Sophie.
Hi, Sin.
Hi, Bean.
Hi!
Hi, everyone. And welcome to the Snack Covenant, episode 241.
Yay!
Today we're talking about Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin, Advent of the Red Comet, with our special guest, Bean. And specifically, we'll discuss Char.
Advent of the Red Comet makes it sound like it was flagged as spam.
You've been on the podcast a few times before, and for the benefit of newer listeners, could you please tell us about yourself?
Sure. My name's Bean, aka Emily. I'm an artist, cosplayer, occasional streamer, casual card game enjoyer. I like Gundam a lot. I love Bloodborne.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a general, well-rounded nerd. And I'm happy to be here.
Yay! And Bean, since this is a professional podcast, I have to ask you, what credentials do you possess to talk Gundam with us?
My credentials are I am just a big fan of Char Aznable. I'm just a big old Char slut. That's my credentials. We're gonna go with that.
Now, our credentials to talk about Gundam are... Sophie has like 5 different versions of that pink transformer, and I have a Liberty Prime.
Yeah.
You know, Liberty Prime is just a Gundam.
Yeah.
It's just a Gundam, except it's actually cool.
And not some anime bullshit.
Okay, my credential here is that I had to point out to people what a Zaku was. Because there's references to Zakus in the Bloodborne code.
Is there?
Yes, because it's a common thing in Japanese game design to call the shitty little enemies that you kill in huge quantities Zakus internally, because that's how Zakus work in Gundam.
That's amazing. I love that so much. They're all just little green Zakus.
Yeah. So
Oh
all
my
the
God.
shitty little beasts and shitty little huntsmen in Bloodborne are called Zaku.
So cute. I love that. 2 of my favorite things right there. Just together, and they have no other real connection other than the naming convention and the code.
Wait a minute. Shared universe confirmed?
Why not? Yeah.
Well, Armored Core is kind of...
Actually.
Yeah. The end of Unicorn is kind of like Bloodborne.
And the Moonlight Greatsword is in, Armored Core, and that's in Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bean.
My other credential is that as a kid I had a model of Big Zam.
Could you please describe it?
Big Zam looks like the bottom half of a robot you lost the top half of. It's basically just, it looks ridiculous. It's like the head of a frog with 2 very long legs poking down.
Oh, yes. I remember this. Oh, it's so stupid.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I love it.
Well, that was a wonderful introduction.
Good.
So now let's move on to the angelic outline.
Oh!
Thank you.
It's just angelic as hell. Just
Yeah.
Let me direct your attention to the first question.
Mm-hmm.
Since we're talking about Advent of the Red Comet, what did you ladies know about Gundam before watching that anime?
Well, I had seen all of the original Mobile Suit Gundam 0079, which came out in 1979. I had watched it as a kid, so I actually already knew kind of about like what the story was being told in Advent of the Red Comet, because they do like flashbacks but it's just a much smaller, condensed variant of it that they made an anime about it. And because Char is like one of the most popular characters ever to be conceived in modern media.
After Reborn?
After Reborn.
After Reborn, yeah. After Lambo, yeah.
Of course, after Lambo, of course.
Hi, Sophie here. Sin's a little concerned that despite being one of the most popular characters in modern media, you might not have heard of Lambo. Well, like most of the shit I have to explain in these little cutaways, Lambo is a character from the anime Katekyo Hitman Reborn. Lambo is a 5-year-old with a huge afro and the dimensions of a Funko Pop. You might think this makes Lambo easier to distinguish from other 5-year-olds, but it's Reborn, so it doesn't. Instead, you distinguish Lambo by the fact he is wearing a cow-patterned onesie, and he has horns. It's not clear, really, if the horns are actually a costume or if he actually just has horns. You might also think, well, why does the Lambo guy have a cow theme if he's a lamb? The cow thing is because he's from a mafia family called the Bovino family. And then you're like, why is the 5-year-old in the mafia? Well, Reborn does have magic baby assassins that work for the mafia, but Lambo's not a magic baby. Lambo is just a normal baby who works for the mafia. That's Lambo. Back to the podcast.
I had seen several Gundam anime prior to watching Advent of the Red Comet, including Gundam Wing, Gundam Seed, original Mobile Suit Gundam, a little bit of Zeta, because I'm a big fan of Zeta Gundam, and Iron-Blooded Orphans. So I have a lot of my back to back me up, I guess.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And, I'd seen the trailer for Gundam Wing. It was on every anime DVD that I had in, like, the 2000s. I mean, you can tell that I don't know anything about it because I'm still calling it Gundam. Because I'd only ever seen it written down until, like, a month ago.
I have to ask Bean, is it true that Gundam is a combination of gun and freedom?
Is it?
I don't know! What? Google translate this shit. Because, look, I don't actually know. It's literally Gundam.
Yeah. I guess it's like all those 70s robots just have weird mashup names. Like Zambot and, like, Mazinger and, yeah.
I must have read it on some wiki site.
Was it Fextra?
Yeah, was it extra?
Well, my experience with Gundam is that, on my end, Gundam, Escaflowne, Macross Plus sort of occupied the same space in my mind as big robots that shoot stuff. So that's pretty much all I knew about that Gundam universe before watching Advent of the Red Comet.
Mm-hmm.
Which made the Red Comet a little confusing.
That's fair. It's supposed to, like, be a supplementary anime, kind of.
This was the thing with it, because I watched this, like, recap thing from a Gundam fan on YouTube who was like, oh, this is a really good point to jump onto the series because it doesn't require you to have seen anything else. And, like, it's true that the story, it's, like, chronologically the first part. So, no, it doesn't. But also it makes no concessions whatsoever if you don't already know where this goes. To the point where there's all these characters who show up for about, like,
5 seconds.
Yeah.
When they show off, like, child Amuro in the space station before Char blows it up. Yeah, it's Amuro. Ray, he's got the little Haro.
Yeah.
And you know it's Amuro because he has the Haro, but if you don't know who Amuro is, that means absolutely fuck all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big problem. It was like every time an incidental character would start getting the spotlight, it's like coin flip. Is this a character who's important later on, or are they going to die in the next scene to make us understand the horrors of war? And so it's about 50-50. Like when they had the Yuki the snow guy.
Yeah, I was waiting for something more, and I thought there was going to be a story and an arc, and
I was waiting for him to like pick up the rifle and disappear, and like, oh, he's a character in 1979. He's not though, he's dead.
I love how much time they spend like explaining the politics with the Zabis specifically, because you don't really see what that turns out to be until you watch like 0079, and then you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I see. You showed Garma off so much because of the relationship that him and Char have, because then Char proceeds to go kill him.
Right, yeah, that's the thing, because it's setting up Char's revenge, which we then don't see.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
There are no Gundams also in this anime, like at all. There's like one that they preview. There's no Gundams. It's all Zaku's and all the like pre-Gundam shit, like the tanks that roll around that have like the Zaku bodies on them.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
when was the first time you saw anything Gundam related?
I was probably in a hobby shop and I saw a kit that my parents wouldn't let me have, because I actually wasn't allowed to have any model kits when I was a kid. They were like, you're not going to do those, you're just going to lose the shit to it and never do it. But I then was watching Toonami when they were airing Gundam Wing.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched Gundam Wing first, way back in the day.
Yeah.
And that was probably my first.
I was the same. I saw Gundam kits in hobby shops, but unlike Bean, my dad built model planes. So he's like, I can't stop you. So,
Aww.
yeah, I had this weird hodgepodge of just like Gundam kits and also just random robots that I didn't know the origins of. And then I called it Gundam until March. And then during the sort of mid-2000s when I was getting back into anime, the Gundam Wing trailer was on every DVD that I found. And I can quote the trailer by heart, but I've never seen the series. Also, I think Frampt is in the trailer.
Sophie,
Yes.
could Framp do a little cameo for us with his new super hit catchphrase?
I need a sock.
Oh no.
Chaosu chosen undead. Hello?
Hi, Sophie here. Sin is a little concerned that at this point in the podcast, it's gotten a bit stupid, and this might frighten off newer listeners who came here for intelligent conversation. If you like intelligent conversation, Sin recommends How to Catch a Fearsome Critter, a series in which Sin and I track down animals that don't exist. Enemies of Bloodborne, an exhaustive deep dive into the characters from the hit PS4 RPG, asking questions like, what are their hobbies, and what are they made of? And of course, The Policy, a 5.5-hour analysis of the anime Neon Genesis Evangelion. Back to the podcast.
So my experience with Gundam was similar to yours.
Mm-hmm.
They aired Gundam Wing in the 90s on TV, and I would catch random episodes here and there, but I would have no idea what's happening.
Yeah.
So I didn't really get into it.
Oh.
It's okay, because I'm becoming a pro now, because my boyfriend, who's like a mega nerd, has like thousands upon thousands of Gundams in his computer, and he's like, we can watch them all if you want.
That's awesome. That's nice.
Yeah.
Let me ask y'all, what did you think of Advent of the Red Comet?
Well, it felt like what it was, which was watching the first half of something that then ends, and nothing is really paid off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I was saying, there was this YouTuber who's like, it's a really good place to jump on because you don't need to know anything. And like, you don't need to know anything, but also it just stops. So then in order to understand what any of that meant, you have to watch the original anyway.
Or while you're watching it, you're continuously Googling everything and asking your boyfriend to explain things to you.
I can't Google what anyone's name is because they all have these weird mash-up names.
All these made-up names.
I love that there is a robot called the Gelgoog. Gelgoog is my favorite name for a robot ever at this point.
I do love Tall Geese, but that's in that's in Wing.
Yeah.
So every time I see a tall geese, I just send a picture of it to Jess. It's like here's a tall geese in the wild.
Yeah, so because like I know the robot designs because I've seen them in stores, but I don't know what they are. I don't know what they do. I thought they were all called Gundam.
Same.
No, and then they're like, no, a Gundam is a special kind of thing that's not a mobile suit, and I'm like,
Yeah, there's
Alright.
mobile suits which are like different than Gundams.
Yeah.
Gundams are like specifically made by like a guy that made the first Gundam.
The Slav-sounding particle guy.
Yes,
Minovsky,
yes, that
yeah.
guy. He they talk about him like making it for the like Earth Federation, which is like, you know, the people on Earth, and then like of course the Zabis of the Zeon Empire are like, we're gonna make these Zakus because they're like just based off of mobile suits that we can like modify for combat.
Yeah.
I guess if we're gonna still talk about the impact or like our initial thoughts of
The impact, I'm just imagining the fucking space colony hitting Sydney. This is the thing where it's like, I was told repeatedly, oh yeah, Gundam's really interesting because there's like, it's like morally ambiguous as to like, who are the real villains here, that it's like, here's your introduction, we killed half the human race by dropping the space colony on the planet Earth. And it's like, I think you're the villains.
Oh yeah, Zeon.
It's like, you killed half the human race, you're dressed as Nazis.
Yeah.
You keep doing parades where you seeing Zeon.
Yep.
So I don't know what other context there is that would make me think, perhaps they have a point.
So here's the thing. When you're watching, like especially with Advent of the Red Comet, when you're watching it, it's really obvious that they're trying to play off the Zabi family specifically, not necessarily the principles of the Zeon Empire, but the Zabi family that takes it over from Zeon Daikun. There's Zeon Zoom Daikun, excuse me. Fuck, you said Zeon earlier and I was like, hello? Anyway, so you have like the Zabi family that's specifically like the antagonists of Rise of the Red Comet or Advent of the Red Comet, because Char is specifically seeking that sort of revenge for killing his dad and taking over the Zeon Empire. But when you go into like the actual like the 0079, it is ambiguous, because if you're starting with the original, you're going to end up thinking like, well, the Earth Federation aren't all good guys, and the Principality Zeon's not all bad guys. You're going to see two sides of the same coin and see how there's just bad people on each side, no matter what. Yeah. But, like, no, definitely, like, the Principality of Zeon is definitely Nazi-coded. Like, when you initially watch it, you're like, this is like watching Star Wars. You're watching the Empire fight the Rebellion, and the Rebellion would be what the Earth Federation is, and Zeon would be, like, the Empire, which are also Nazi-coded. So you end up with a lot of that.
Yeah. And there's that thing that, again, like, I don't remember it being much in Advent of the Red Comet, but the idea that, like, the colonies are being treated like shit by the Earth Federation.
Yeah.
You barely see the Earth Federation at all in this.
No, you don't. It's another instance where I think that Advent of the Red Comet is not necessarily a great starting off point if you're really interested in the politics behind everything and how it really, like, functions, because there's a lot of extra stuff that you need to know about the Earth Federation to really get in there.
It feels like watching a historical drama that takes as read that you understand the setting, and I didn't.
Yeah.
The entire time you're kind of wondering, why are they fighting? What's happening?
Yeah.
The Advent of the Red Comet kind of sets it up so it looks like Char is really one of the main reasons why the 1-year war happens that wipes out like half of the human population, because he starts that shit with Earth Federation like folks when he's still like in training for the military for Zeon. I can't remember exactly what episode that is, but I know there's a part where he like convinces Garma to like lead this like rebellion against these Earth Federation soldiers. Essentially that makes it look like Zeon is staging a coup against the Earth Federation, and that is like part of the reason why Zeon moved forward with the dropping of the colonies and all of that.
Oh, well, I wish they'd explained it this way.
Yeah, I wish they would explain it like in order and then keep going.
Yes. So let me ask you, Bean, that school or whatever where Char started all that crap, what was that exactly?
The school that he's in is like basically like basic training for like Zeon soldiers. That's run by the Zabi family, and it's Dozel Zabi who runs it.
Right.
And then
yeah.
Garma is the class president who rooms with Char. And Char has that really like homoerotic scene where he like buttons Garma's like shirt up and he's like, go do this shit for me, get some shit started. And Garma's just like sweating because he's just like, oh god, this man's gonna kiss me, he's coming in for the kill. And it's a very interesting dynamic because that shit just keeps happening with Garma and Char.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen a nice live reaction to that. Okay, this is from me, 3rd of April. It is just a screenshot of Char and Garma, and it just says, gay, it's good now.
There's a scene in Gundam Origin where, like, Garma's just, like, visiting Char for some reason, and, like, Char's just taking a shower, and he's just butt-ass naked. He just comes out with his dick out and just starts talking politics with Garma, and then Garma proceeds to go get fucking murdered because Char told him to. It's, like, fully colored in the manga, like, they colored it. Here, I'll just post the Twitter. It's in the chat.
Oh my goodness.
They colored it. They colored the infamous shower scene. Just fucking ass out, like naked as shit. You don't see Char like do that shit like with like he's doing it because he thinks that Garma thinks he's sexy. I'm 100% sure. He just like shows up. It's beautiful. I love it. Love to see it. You'll love to see it. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
This is very important.
I'll just put this on my secondary monitor.
So now that everybody's on the same page about the lore,
Something like that.
let's talk a little bit about Char. So Bean, let me ask you, when you first encountered Char in the original Gundam anime, one from 79, do you know that he's not really Char?
The original starts off with Amuro when he's like actually like older, and essentially it starts on side 7 where he lives, but you don't encounter Char until a little bit later into the original series. So you encounter him as this antagonist to Amuro, and that's pretty much what he remains to be in that series. You do get a little bit of a condensed flashback of Char's story, similar to how Advent of the Red Comet plays out within 0079, but prior to that, you're just like, oh, it's a Zeon guy, but he wears red instead of green. Everybody else wears green. I guess he just likes red. It turns out he just fucking loves the color red. So you first encounter him, and he's just kind of this very cocky, I forget what his ranking is, but he's like just incredibly cocky. Pretty much a lot of other Zeon soldiers don't really like him. Or they respect him, but they don't really like him.
Mm-hmm.
I encountered him like that. We don't really know that his name is Casval, and that he came from like a family that his father was murdered, and the Zabi family did it, and then they took over the Principality of Zeon, or any of that, until like halfway through the 1979 anime.
Interesting. So they do reveal it in the 1979 anime.
They do. They cover it, like I said, it's condensed a little bit more. They expand upon it in the manga that came out in 2001. And then animated that variant of the manga as Advent of the Red Comet. Yeah, what the heck is his position? I'm looking at this now. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out what his position is.
You know the military really loves non-conformity. Paint myself red and disobey orders.
That happens in Advent near the end, like one of the few last episodes. I recall there being a scene where people are getting pissy that Char is wearing red, and they're like, "What the fuck is your problem?" And he's like, "I can do whatever the fuck I want because Garma Zabi like sucks my dick on the weekends," and they just leave him alone. I mean, what? That's what happened. He's basically got the Zabis. He's trying to like keep his enemies really close to him. So he essentially is just like, fuck off, I can do whatever I want. So he paints the Zaku red, he wears red. He doesn't want to be associated as closely to like Zeon, or he wants to be above them because they're run by the Zabis.
Yeah.
That actually makes sense. He's sort of infiltrating this whole thing, but he's still trying to differentiate himself.
Yeah, absolutely. And people respect him because he's really good at what he does, because he's a new type, which is a whole other ball of wax within the Gundam universe. And it basically just deems that he's really, really good in space. He's like really good at piloting the Zaku in space and doesn't have the same sort of like physical hindrances that people that grew up on Earth have with piloting things in space. That's just the very, very, very general overview of that, because new types can also like sense other new types, and there's like some weird telepathic shit going on.
Yeah.
That's why there's that, within the context of the anime, utterly meaningless scene where Char goes and just finds a psychic girl in a casino.
Yeah.
And then just leaves.
Yes, that's pretty sure it's Salamas. No, Salamas is his sister. Hold up. Fuck.
She's Lala. I know, because I had to frantically Google her, because I'm like, you're not coming back into the series, are you? And this seems significant.
Her point in the series is she's a new type. She has these this relationship with Char. She meets him and like, you know, has this bond because they're new types. And then she also proceeds to meet Amuro and also have a bond. And both of the boys are just head over heels for this lady. She like tries to stop Amuro and Char from fighting, and they end up killing her. And she like basically becomes like space dust, because for some reason Char can still like hear her and like kind of see her when he's in space for some reason, or if it's like some like really weird 80s anime shit.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So after she dies, that's what like spawns what pretty much happens in the film Char's counterattack.
Right.
Uh-huh. So we know that Char's birth name is Casval Rem Deikun.
Yes.
He becomes Char through a slightly questionable mean.
So he moves to Texas because his other caretakers of him and Artesia die because the Zabis are after them, as per usual.
Yeah.
And he moves to Texas and lives with the Aznable family. However, he meets a boy named Char Aznable who happens to look just like him for no goddamn reason. Char Aznable gets not the Char Aznable we're talking about, but the boy from Texas, Char Aznable, which is a totally normal Texan name. He gets a ticket to go to like a basic training and military camp for the Principality of Zeon. Char is like, hey, wow, that's really cool. I could use that to my advantage. So he like proceeds to go with him to like the space station to see him off, plants a bomb in the space station, rides the fuck out of there with the papers that says he's Char Aznable, and goes to the Principality of Zeon as Char Aznable.
So, what do you think that tells us about Char?
Well, Char has a history of being a homicidal maniac. He's got a lot of problems. He kills a man in a suit of armor as like a 12-year-old.
Yeah, I remember that. They show that off in the intro repeatedly.
Yes, they like to show that, but he like murders this guy.
Yeah.
Because he's after his sister, so he's protecting his sister. It's kind of more like a protection thing at that point, but he also kills a bunch of those. He's like 6 years old and he kills all of those tanks.
Yeah.
He just fires it off. He's like, yeah, fuck these guys. He's like been homicidal since day one. Casilia Zabi comes in when he's like 5 or 6, and she's like, hey, you little shit. I'm gonna take you because you're fucking part of the Deikun line and we don't want you around here. And he's like, you can suck my dick, old hag. And then like she just leaves him alone.
Char has a sister, and both of them have to escape to Texas.
Should we point out that Texas is like a space colony called Texas, not the actual Texas?
No. Just kidding.
Okay.
It's a space colony called Texas that was built as an amusement park.
I like the idea that Casval planned all this out beforehand, so it's like step 3, escape to Texas. Step 4, meet person who looks exactly like me.
Oh my god.
Step 5, that person gets into a military academy that I want to get into. There's just the thing about the mistaken identity, right? Because I was saying this felt like a historical piece, right? That is something that would work in a historical setting before they have cameras. It's like if you look at old stories of like, like someone just takes someone's armor or just says there's someone else and there's no way to check because it's like, cameras don't exist at this point. We just have a vague description. And then I'm like, well, hang on. If this is the far future, surely you can forge an ID?
Here's my thing with like Gundam, especially with like these older setting like Universal Centuries. If you look at the clothing that they have in these settings, you're kind of like, this looks a lot older than the tech that they have.
Yeah.
So it feels to me like it's like a rewriting of history where there's like a higher tech, but like for some reason like society itself hasn't progressed with the tech.
And there's that scene where Casilia and the other guy, they're just like looking at all these old paintings.
Yeah.
Yeah. The go-to reference for the characters is still like Napoleon when they're talking.
Yeah. They do that in Unicorn too, because Unicorn has that whole basis where there's that mural, where there's a mural of the unicorn, and like the family that has the kid that pilots the unicorn is like connected to that because of the anyway. Unicorn is more confusing than Advent of the Red Comet, so I'm not gonna get into Unicorn.
There's
paintings
of Napoleon riding his Gundam.
Riding a Gundam on the outside of it. I want a painting of Napoleon, but it's just Char Aznable.
Do it.
I'm gonna do it.
Oh my god, do it, girl.
I'm gonna do it.
At some point, when Char is younger, him and his sister get attacked in one of the places they're hiding out, and they get attacked by a Dark Souls knight.
Yes, they do.
What's up with that?
It's just a guy wearing a suit of armor who's an assassin sent by the Zabis.
They're in a place with a bunch of armor that's there already. So the assassin hides by hiding in the armor.
Yeah.
He didn't show up in the armor as his stock, like, assassin outfit.
The best assassin outfit is just dressing up as a Black Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little confused. I'm like, why are you dressed like this? Is not effective? You're gonna hurt yourself?
It sucks.
A 6-year-old could probably kill you.
Yeah.
And he does.
So, Bean, let me ask you. Not necessarily just in Red Comet, but in any of the anime, did Char have any strong relationships with any other characters?
Yeah, so like, I know, like I talked about Garma because I could talk about Garma forever. But he actually has like a lot. Obviously, he has like some sort of connection with his sister Garma, as we mentioned. Amuro, who is of course the protag of the original, as I mentioned before, he does have like some sort of connection to him, albeit one that's like, I'm gonna kill this guy. The rest of the Zabi family he has some sort of connection to because he's at least met every single one of them in some fashion or another. Camille in Zeta Gundam. Lala Zune, who we mentioned as well, she's in Origin, Advent of the Red Comet. A couple other girls that he dates and then they die because he can't have nice things, including women.
Aww.
I mean, he doesn't deserve them. But like, other than that, like, yeah, pretty much a lot of characters that you would see in Advent of the Red Comet, he would have some semblance of a connection to. I know he doesn't interact as much as like you'd expect him to with like Ramba Ral, but like they know each other. The rest of the Zabis, other than like, you know, I don't think he interacts with like the second oldest, the one that's like obsessed with like Japanese aesthetic. I can't remember his name, but yeah, people just know Char. People either know and respect him, know and fear him. He's got a lot of connections and a lot of longevity in the series.
And how would you say his personality transforms throughout the series?
He's pretty cocky for like the first several like instances. He mellows out a lot after Lala is killed. He has this shift where he's like no longer like, there's a point in time where I believe in Char's counterattack or something or the other in that regard where he's actually like leading Zeon in a way because the Zabis are dead. So he's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do now? Okay, well, I guess I'll just like go after Earth Federation. And then he's just like, kind of like, fuck, this isn't what I wanted. In Zeta Gundam, he's like a good guy. He's like in the good guy, like, crew. I haven't watched all of Zeta, so I can't really like speak as much to Zeta, but I know that he's not considered a villain in Zeta. He might be considered like an anti-hero in some way, like not fully a protag, but he's not a villain. He's not coded as like the homicidal maniac that he normally is.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Before we go, I'd like us to do something. I googled quick personality test and Dr. Phil's personality test popped out.
Right.
So I think we should take one for Char and see what we get.
Yes.
Alrighty.
So first question is, when do you feel your best? In the morning, late at night, during the afternoon, and early evening?
He's probably at his best and sneakiest in like the afternoon, late afternoon.
During his long showers.
Char plotting his revenge while he drinks his coffee and eats his croissant.
He actually does that at the like dinner party that Garma's at. Like Garma leaves him to go see his like girlfriend, and like Char's in the back, and he's got like this glass of wine, and he's just like downing it. And I'm like, my guy. Anyway.
Awesome. All right. The next question is, you usually walk fairly fast with long steps?
Yes. We're gonna go fast. He likes to go really fast.
Yeah.
Would you say fairly fast with long steps or fairly fast with small steps?
Boy's got legs for days. I'm gonna say long steps.
Perfect. When people talk to you, do you stand with your arms folded? Do you have your hands clasped? One or both of your hands on your hips?
Oh, he definitely like stands with his hands on his hips. I know this for a fact.
You know,
and
this
I'm trying to find. I'm trying to find my like picture I took of him from the 0079 anime because it's a ridiculous image. Here it is. I'm gonna send this to you.
Okay. Oh my god!
I started making his revenge plan.
Yes, by Casval. That's exactly. To seduce Garma is number 8.
When relaxing, you sit with your legs crossed, your knees bent with your legs neatly side by side, your legs stretched out straight, one leg curled under you.
I'm gonna say the first option,
Yeah.
but like in that like power stance sort of way because he thinks he's better than everyone else.
Oh, totally. Yes, agreed. When something really amuses you, you react with a big appreciative laugh, a quiet chuckle, a laugh but not a loud one, a sheepish smile.
I wish there was an option for a fake laugh because
Yeah.
Char is like very much like he will humor you if he wants to get what he wants, but he doesn't like you.
Let's say a quick chuckle.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. I like that.
He's doing a quiet chuckle to himself,
Yes.
internally.
24/7.
Yeah. He's like, alright, murder time.
That's absolutely right.
Murder time. When you go to a party or a social gathering, do you make a loud entrance so that everyone notices you?
He does like to be seen. He's like very much like, look at me, I'm hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're working very hard, concentrating hard, and you're interrupted.
Oh shit.
Do you welcome the break? Do you feel extremely irritated? Or do you vary between the two?
I actually do feel like there's some variant here because he's still like
Yeah.
a dude. And I feel like he's got this like, especially in the original, he's got like this like, not humor, but he's got like this levity that's like not seen in a lot of other of the higher ups. Like he's not worried about shit. Does that make sense? He's like not worried
Yeah.
about anything. Because he's got it like all on lock. So if he gets like interrupted, I feel like it just really depends on the situation.
Yeah, like he varies between the two extremes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I also feel like depends on who interrupts him.
Yeah, if it's like a Zabi, he may not like it very much.
He may just stab them. Like, you don't know.
Yeah, he might just go to town right there.
The next question's very difficult. I don't know how we'll answer it. What color do you think Char likes the most?
Oh shit.
Hmm.
That's, you know.
Do you want the options?
Yeah, let's get the options on that one.
Okay. Red? We've got black, yellow, green, purple, white, or brown.
Well, you know, Garma's hair is purple.
Oh, that's right.
Red it is.
Okay, it's red. Oh shit.
When you are in bed at night, in those last few moments before going to sleep, you are
Thinking about revenge.
Plotting revenge.
That would be funny if that was one of the options.
So good.
Sophie, do you want to read out the options?
Certainly, Sin.
Let's do it.
When you're in bed at night, in those last few moments before going to sleep, are you stretched out on your back? Stretched out face down on your stomach? On your side? With your head on one arm? Or with your head under the covers? I think his head under the covers to hide his eyes.
You know what? I swear to you, he sleeps with that the stupid goggles on. I swear.
Yeah.
No, he probably uses an eye mask, but like,
Yeah.
bro, I don't know. Like that I don't know.
Then again, if you're stretched out on your back, you can plot revenge better.
That's true. I think he sleeps with the goggles on, but he also like is on his back, like plotting revenge.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see this.
And the last question is...
You often dream that you are falling, fighting, searching for somebody or something, flying or floating. You usually have dreamless sleep, or your dreams are always pleasant.
Fighting?
or flying, because he does a
Or
lot of
flying.
flying.
Yeah. Possibly searching for someone if that something is revenge.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
like
yeah,
searching for
yeah.
someone or something because he's
Yeah.
like looking for a way to
Yeah.
kill all the zombies.
Yeah,
You know what? Yeah, that's the one.
yeah, okay.
We're gonna go with that one.
Alrighty.
Excellent. Let's get the results. A lively center of attention.
Yeah!
And the summary is: others see you as fresh, lively, charming, amusing, practical, and always interesting. Someone who's constantly in the center of attention, but sufficiently well balanced not to let it get to their head. They also see you as kind, considerate, and understanding.
They do.
Someone who always cheer them up and help them out.
It's true. You can look at it with Garma. I mean, you can
Yeah,
look at it with
yeah,
Garma.
yeah,
He trusts
yeah.
him, and it's
Yeah.
very sad.
Sophie, do the outro.
That was the Snack Covenant episode 241, an exciting character study of Char Aznable by two people who don't know anything about him and Bean. Bean, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter at Teeny Coffee Bean. Find me on Twitch at Teeny Tiny Coffee Bean. I've been streaming some Near Replicant because it just came out today. You can find me on my Etsy. My Etsy is Tiny Coffee Bean Studios. I sell a bunch of Dark Souls and Bloodborne stuff. And that's probably the best way to find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming, Bean.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so much
Aw.
fun.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thank you, Sophie.
Thank you, Sin.
And thanks everyone for listening. And see y'all next time.
Bye.
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 Chaosu chosen undead.